the deep and for the peopling of the world essential Austronesian Expansion, and the consequential out of the Americas, both smothered by consensus or mainstream. Until now the alternative historians add up to this smothering. It seems that they fear or at best avoid challenging consensus. Most people do not even know anymore that rather recently out of Asia dominated out of Africa, correctly so, because at least 100 fossils of archaics were found in the island of Java alone, while only a few in Europe and the whole of the Neanderthal range. Most of these were conveniently classified as Homo erectus, this while they have human-like faces and traits, at least so when compared to Neanderthals, which are genetically identical to us and only therefore classified as a sister group. Alternative historians churns out videos, almost on a daily basis, but they do not rewrite the consensus human history they criticize so much. Just like consensus, they neglect or possibly even negate to look into the ancestral markers, genetics, and also clear facts, even while these are essential if you want to find our or any ancestor, uncover or rewrite the actually improbable human history. Michael Button is one of the few alternative historians that criticizes the consensus timeline and human history with good, popular, and relatively short argumentative videos. He even touched the subject of an ancient signal Y appearing in the Americas, while it should not be there at all according to consensus human history. But the same is the case for Neanderthals and Denisovans admixture that we know the dates much better of. However, when he touched the subject he did not consider an American origin, so not taking the scientific approach, and doing just the same as consensus and consensus human history does, that he and most others doubt and criticize so much. But we have to give him credit, because he does a lot that others don't, or don't present in such a for the public digestible way. Consensus and alternative historians alike too easily forget that Neanderthals are humans identical to us. That is why they are called sister groups. While they morphologically seem different, they are genetically identical. The morphological differences are the consequence of methylations, which do not alter DNA, and that we call here domestications, this to simplify the matter. In fact, before out of Asia started to be smothered and forgotten, out of Africa did not exist or did not exist anymore, this simply so because of massive evidence in favor of out of Asia. Before out of Asia there had been the Neanderthal origin hypothesis. Both out of Asia and Neanderthal origin were closer to the truth and real human history than out of Africa, with its essential Neanderthal interbreeding ever was and will be. In this video we will only present a short list of evidence for ancient Austronesian expansions. As a reference we take the supposed Neanderthal interbreeding or the Neanderthal fraction or admixture event of 47,000 years ago. This event is supposed to have been in the Middle East, Asia, or even Europe. There is certainly no good proof of this, and almost consequentially also no total consensus about this, and that is strange by itself. We do not know from where and by whom the out of Africa starts, where the interbreeding should have happened, and with what group of Neanderthals. The Neanderthal group in Israel and the Middle East should be the obvious one, this for being closest to the Africa-Eurasia permanent land bridge, but there seems to be evidence that there was no interbreeding and certainly no evidence that confirms there was. Besides, it is proven by means of fossils that there had been presence of admixture individuals in Israel long before, like at least 150,000 years ago. This presence does not prove at all that the essential admixture, claimed by the scientists of the research, that started in before, at least roughly 200,000 years ago, also happened in Israel. Further, apparently this admixture did not make it to the modern humans, just like the much later fossils in Europe went extinct. The few supposed admixture or interbreeding fossils in Europe went extinct. Ranis in central Germany with 13 fossils, and in Barcho-Kiro cave in Bulgaria with fractions of at least one individual, and both cases are dated roughly 47,000 years ago. Before you conclude that the admixture fossil found in Israel is a sign of out of Africa, we would like to remind you that such admixture happened across the world. However, there is no clear reporting about this admixture across the world. This possibly is so, because this global appearance of admixture across the world, especially in the cases of locations far from Africa, and across seas or even oceans, challenges consensus, including the Neanderthal interbreeding or admixture event 47,000 years ago, or even 80,000 years ago for that matter, and consequently also out of Africa. Some of the challenges of consensus and the origin of black skin are: A. The presence of Denisovans in Oceania and South America hundreds of thousands of years ago. B. The Aboriginals in Australia, with datings of far over 47,000 years ago. C. Signal Y and or population Y in the Americas, and not at all in Africa. Signal Y and or population Y, Neanderthal and even Denisovan DNA, as well as the oldest human ancestral marker across South America, and in higher frequencies than in Asia, and with the lowest frequencies in Africa, similar with B006 and Neanderthals and Denisovans in Africa, should be radical eye-openers. Yet all systematically look away. D. A pigs hunted by humans pictured in rock art, 51,200 years old, in Sulawesi, an Indonesian island, which during the Ice Ages was exclusively facing the Pacific Ocean and the Americas. Or the eventual moo, when seen from the west. The oldest example of figurative cave art has been discovered in the Indonesian island of Sulawesi by Australian and Indonesian scientists. The painting of a wild pig and 3 human-like figures is at least 51,200 years old, more than 5,000 years older than the previous oldest cave art, and obvious older and extremely far away from the Africa-Eurasia land bridge, as well as from the supposed Neanderthal interbreeding. B. The renomated magazine Nature, and others report that the first or at least earliest inhabitants of Polynesia were Native Americans. Certainly these early Polynesians carried Y-DNA haplogroup C, just as the Aurignacian culture did, which involved the first humans and culture in Europe, this already 47,000 years ago, which is a clear challenge for consensus on its own. Y-DNA haplogroup C is found at high frequencies in the extreme west and east of Eurasia, and consequently can come from both sides of the Americas, where it has its roots. Y-DNA haplogroup C is found at high frequencies amongst native Mongolians and other Central and East Asian populations, and it has been associated with the ancient nomadic groups of the region, such as the Donghu and Xianbei, and the expansion of the Mongol Empire. Y-DNA haplogroup C also is found among Japan's native populations, with its presence linked to the ancient Jaimin people. This in Europe, Far East Asia and Polynesia contemporary appearing Y-DNA haplogroup C, this at least 47,000 years ago, has its root in South America, Ecuador, and a secondary root in massive cradles in North America, and that this C group is dominant amongst Australian natives and amongst Far East Asians, including or especially amongst the earlier mentioned Mongolians, in the extreme far east of Asia. Please remember that Polynesia is very far from Africa, and also against the currents, but still relatively close to Asia and not to the Americas, and that the complete crossing of the Pacific is proven by the above and other genetic markers, including the migration of by Native Americans domesticated plants all across the Pacific and behind, even to Africa. Obviously, advanced navigation is essential in all of this, just as it was in the global spreading of archaics like Homo erectus and Neanderthals. We stress this repression of the deep and ancestral Austronesian expansion, because we frequently use it in our videos, and quite often we forget to stress it is about an early Austronesian expansion, including one that took place between 50 and 80,000 years ago, consequently contemporary with the Subt out of Africa or even long before it. This proven early Austronesian expansions, including the one that took place between 50 and 80,000 years ago, populated a significant part of the world, and gave rise to some of the most ancient cultures in the world, this all the way from Indonesia to Mesopotamia, including Göbekli Tepe, with China, India, and Pakistan underway. We are not talking about the latest Austronesian expansions of the last 2 millennia, which is the only ones consensus talks about, while these latest Austronesian expansions do not explain any of the provisory and very incomplete list of expansions related to the Americas or at least to Asia, that we superficially presented in this video. We feature several in detail videos about this same subject. By this, we declare that we consider this video as provisory. Meanwhile, we lose out on taking care of our thriving existence and health. This by means of taking care of and expanding our already existing extremely productive carbon agroforests. The flickering on your screen, that is covering all of South America, represents a daily massive carbon dioxide removal and biomass production. Nobody seems to recognize the flickering, and certainly not the massive potential it presents. It is a shame that the general public has no clue of this daily, South America and globally regulating phenomenon, and its relation to sustainable practices of Amazon Amerins in the past. Please comment with your doubts and remarks, as we pretend to complete or to remake this same video, for it to become more useful and or understandable for you and others. We do not pretend to feature popular, nor widely accepted videos, but rather to rewrite parts, especially of human history, that are scientifically proven to be improbable at this point. Also ask for more or better illustrations and or proofs, if this would be helpful. Please remember that you should not call yourself an alternative historian or historian, if you do not clarify at least some part of history, or do not add up with a fully scientifically supported history, or with a history without too many paradigms. Like consensus still fails to do so, and most historians, even alternative historians, also fail to do so until now. Criticizing or doubting the historical vision or timelines of others, independent if this is consensus or mainstream or none of both, is not exactly being a historian, or at least not a historian that adds up to history. Thank you.